Welcome to another episode of In the Studio Live. I'm Bobby Balo, the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions, and we have a pretty cool show tonight. I'm really excited to share with you guys my conversation with two pretty wacky, incredibly talented musicians, and we're going to discuss their approach to songwriting, and we have a special event, I guess you would call it, tonight, where we're gonna premiere one of their videos that was just released today, just to kind of give you an idea of how their brain works, because it's pretty unique to say the least. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, I run an online mixing and mastering studio, and I make a lot of YouTube tutorials. So if you make music yourself, definitely check that out. It's a really awesome resource, youtube.com/Raytown Productions. And I also have an online community that you can pop in and join on Facebook. It's called Home Studio Fast Track. And basically it's a community with a bunch of like-minded producers, musicians, people trying to make it in audio. And we share our tips and tricks with each other and support each other and help us make better music, essentially. So with that, I'm going to get on to the show. I'm going to talk about the beer I have tonight, which is amazing. It is Partly Cloudy by Solace Brewing. It's an IPA. Oh man, we got Rick Astley back. So I'm excited to drink this one because it's been one of those days. So it's brewed with El Dorado and Citra, which are like my two favorite hops of all time. So cheers to you guys for tuning in. Yum. Anything with Citra is like, you instantly win when you make an IPA with Citra. So, all right. Actually, I'm going to have another sip of that because it was pretty good. All right. But before I introduce my guests, my speakers today, let's take a look at their video, which just dropped today. I think it's going to make your mind melt. I really don't know how else to describe it, but check this out. Here we go. I'm gonna make it full screen for you guys.
I was walking in the other day. I saw, and I saw a duck.
So I think you understand at this point what I mean by, like, we need to interview these people and understand how their brains work, because that is wild. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guests on today. We have, and here I go. I'm going to try to pronounce some names really poorly. So we have Phil Macnab-Séguin.
Yeah, pretty good.
Right. Séguin. And then Nick Gaumond.
Exactly.
Gaumond.
Yeah.
There we go. I did it. I was really worried I was just going to totally butcher it because my Wisconsinite accent I have zero French in me. So,
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So welcome. Rumor has it Phil has, maybe I'm ruining a surprise, but I heard you might have a beer.
I do have a beer.
Share with the live.
I'm drinking it in my this way. Well, backwards.
That way.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm drinking it in this nice fancy cup, but here's the beer. It is I don't know. I just got this at the supermarket, but we've got some really good in Montreal. I guess in Quebec in general, because this isn't a Montreal beer, but in Montreal, we've got a lot of really good microbreweries. This one is from a monastery somewhere.
Oh, awesome.
Because monks make beer and cheese here. So it's
they
cool
make
monks,
them a lot in Belgium too, man.
Yeah, so this is a Belgian style beer.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's really good.
Well, so cheers to you guys.
It must have been people that came from Belgium actually. I think there was like some sort of an exile or something. I don't know. Got to learn history.
And they all escaped and went to Montreal, right?
At least in Quebec in general. This one is from Amos, so it's not Montreal, but in Quebec.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So if you didn't notice, both Nick and Phil are from Montreal. So pretty awesome. How's the weather? Cold?
It's about
it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's not snowing yet, but almost.
So I probably should start the show by explaining how we got connected. So Nick and I are part of like a producer musical mastermind group essentially. And so we've known each other through that and just been friends. Nick asked me to master some music for him. This song in particular was mastered by me. And it was extremely confusing to master because there's like so many different styles of music all in one song. It's like a minute and a half of complete chaos almost. Like
just consider yourself lucky that I didn't ask you to mix it.
Yeah, right. I would not know how to do it like at all. It's just so wild. So Nick and I met through that. And I'm curious how you guys know each other, Phil. I'm assuming you guys are both like musically trained. So like through college, is it high school? How far back do you guys know each other?
Yeah, high school. We started by, we knew each other since the beginning of high school, I guess. I'm not entirely sure like when exactly. But we went to the same high school together. And we started playing in a band together, a metal band, like progressive metal band, kind of like
awesome, yeah,
really kind of Dream Theater-y at first, and So then afterwards, we went to Vanier College together. We did jazz guitar together in CJEP, this weird thing that we've got between high school and university. And then we went to university at the same university, but in different programs. So I went into classical composition, and Nick, classical, and it's contemporary music, weird stuff. And Nick went into jazz. So and here we are now.
Would you consider any part of what I just heard jazz?
Yeah, the beginning.
Nick, I'm pretty sure you wrote so. Is this jazz? Like what is this?
Well, the first kind of half of the song before it changes really is essentially jazz, because like we can get into this more a bit later, but our kind of writing process for a lot of our music is like repurposing bits from other songs. So there's another song on the EP called Jazzwilties, which is just straight up jazz. And so like the first half of this song is basically made up of samples of that.
That's cool. I mastered, I worked on your songs and I didn't even pick that up. So that's really cool. Fair, you guys are changing it so much.
Yeah. But to be fair, you worked on these songs like over like a pretty long period of time. I didn't give them to you all at once.
Yeah, that's true. Chelsea says Montreal represent.
Yeah.
So I want to point that out. Since I couldn't figure out how to bring the chat over. Maybe I can. Can I do it? Click. Chat is ready to display message. Click on a message. Oh, cool. So I can just say, watch this. I'm learning, guys. There we go. So yeah, Montreal represent.
There you go.
And then we got people who loving the old beer cam. So what up, Chase? Good to see you on the live stream, man. This is awesome. I'm digging this. I hope you guys that are watching are liking this as well. So I need to know more about this song. This is insane. What, like, are there real instruments? Are you playing? Like, what is this? Is this like are these a lot of synthesizers? What's going on?
I don't know if you want to answer this, Nick.
Sure.
Whatever.
I'd say maybe 3/4 of it is samples, like I was talking about before. But there are some recorded parts and some VSTs. Like obviously there's like an electric guitar bit in the middle that's performed with like an actual guitar. There's some synth stuff in there too, but for the most part, it's just kind of like sample manipulation.
That's cool. Like that's so for me, I've always liked the idea of that. Like I listen to a lot of sampled electronic music, a lot of lo-fi, hip hop kind of stuff tends to take samples and manipulate them and glitch them up. So like that's always been intriguing to me to write music starting from someone else, you know, like us, like you hear a song and you're like, that 1 second could be really cool if we, you know, looped it or distorted it or stretched it out. So that kind of stuff has always been intriguing. So how do you get samples? Like, how are you, so you chop them up in like some sort of software? Like, what are you guys using?
Well, in this case, all of the samples are from our own music. So we have all the stems and everything, and like the full tracks obviously printed already. So we kind of just, like, this started when I was on the very first album that I mixed ever was my own jazz record. And I personally kind of found the music boring. So I was like, I'm just going to listen Ableton, and I'm like, my goal is to make this fun for me. I don't care if I screw up the music. So I would just like take stems and stuff, and then kind of like go through all the different warping algorithms and like put it back stuff and see what sounds cool and what already kind of sounds like it's already something. And then so that kind of technique developed, and like getting like more efficient and different options and stuff. And to the point we're at now, where like we're in the process of making a video that goes more in depth stuff, but like there's a lot more crazy stuff than just like reversing and stuff like that, which was kind of like the way it kind of started for me anyway.
Yeah. So do you start with a sample? Do you start with a beat? Like, I'm just going to play this again because it's like, I just like, it is like, how do you start a song like this? Like, you don't conceptualize this. Like, you're not dreaming. Well, maybe you're dreaming and then you hear this, but like I can hear that. So like, okay, for example, I hear like, there's like a loop that's there. Like, would you start with that and then build the percussion around it? Or like, do you start rhythmically?
I think this song.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. This song I think started with the which was a sample from Jazz Wilties, right? It was like this little jazzy kind of thing that we're playing with brushes on a snare drum. And then Nick, you had made this loop with that and a super slowed down piano trill that was pitched down like a ton. It was like, oh no, it was just, hold on. Yeah, it was a trill, right?
Yeah.
And a little clink or something like that. And so that was, yeah. Okay. So that you've got the da-da thing that you keep hearing coming back. That there's the da-da kind of thing. And that's a piano trill pitched down, super slowed down with the da-da is literally clink. That's all, just two notes, da-da, super fast, you know? And it was just pitched down, and this is the kind of thing that we'll do all the time, stretch something until it just like totally mangles it and stuff. And
you're melting my brain. Like, it's oozing, like you can't see it, right? But it's oozing behind my neck right now. It's just
yeah. So I think we ended up, somehow we went, how do we get into this? So I don't know, I forget who came up with the idea, but the idea is right there. It's that we started with the pitched it way up and then slowly brought the pitch down into the beginning of the song. So it's little things like that. Like we were like, okay, we've got this loop thing, but that's not a way to start. It's a continuation thing. Like it's a loop. So how do you get into it? Well, you could go, you know, it's like just a kind of simple gesture that you could have in piano music. You know, you could start the piece going super high and then you descend, flunk, and then you start. But we just did that electronically.
That's so cool. It's amazing. Like, and I'm sure once you're in the moment, like once you have like that seed, you know what I mean? Like that one concept, that one thing that like your anchor essentially for like the song, you just start expanding on it. And then all of a sudden you're done and there's your song, I guess. Does that sound about accurate? Like,
I think there are a lot of seeds. I don't know, Nick, I don't remember exactly what came first, but it seems to me there are a bunch of parts to this that we went, this could work with this and that could work with that. We started off just throwing random ideas at the wall, and then and they slowly started coming together.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes with these sort of things. It's kind of like you're searching for, you're not really starting this stuff with an end in mind. You're kind of just like exploring and like seizing targets of opportunity kind of. So it's kind of more like, I don't know anything about sculpting. I've never done it, but it's more like there's a saying that's kind of like you don't like the rock will kind of tell you what it wants to be based on how it's kind of breaking, you know? So it's kind of similar like that. Like, for example, this beat that we've been talking about the whole time, it like the first iteration of it is exactly how it turned out to be on the final recording. And I went through the notes today and I looked at like the first thing that I put out, like, Phil, this thing is pretty freaking cool, but I don't know I don't know what else to put onto this. Maybe you can like do something with it. And then he's like, no, I can't think of anything either. Let's just put it like that. And that's kind of what happened, you know? And so like when you spend time with like the source material being like the stems from other songs and stuff, you hear it like enough times and you kind of start making connections between like different things and like, oh, maybe that could go next to that thing and it leads into this other part, you know? So it's kind of like you're just pulling on this thread and you don't know where you're going. Like, I'm gonna like paint this mountain that I see over there exactly how it is. That's not how it works.
yeah, that's okay. That's so cool. Just some things from the audience. Stuff is stuff from Twitch says it. Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. She loves it. Stuff is stuff loves it.
Stuff loves it.
Yeah, stuff loves it. Greg also agrees Twitch is way better. So if you guys are watching from Facebook, you have to get on the Twitch game and head over that way. I want to give a shout out to Rob Morgan who popped in and Ryan. Thank you guys so much for kicking it with us. This is super fun. I'm really, really excited about where we're going to take this because it's just we're going to keep going down these rabbit holes and it's going to get weirder and weirder, I'm sure.
just like our music does.
Oh, yeah.
So is there a common... Talk to me about like the album, right? So you guys you released an EP, right?
Yep.
So is there a theme to this? Like how does this work? I know you guys are very deep on this, so I'm assuming there's some sort of theme here.
You want to take this one, Phil?
Yeah, sure.
Taking Phil in.
Yeah. So it's the EP is called Ads, and that's because that's what half of the songs are, at least 4 out of the 6 little tunes on the EP. They're like little fake ads. Basically what happened was this whole thing, again, going on the theme of like seeds, you plant a seed and then it starts to grow and you don't know what exactly it's going to be. You know, you just scatter a bunch of seeds and then the ones that grow and then you end up finding some sort of pattern as you go along. What happened was that at some point we were jamming in the morning. Like we were just doing these like jam sessions every few days or every day or so. And we were like, it would be nice to have like some sort of a finished product with this, you know, something that's like, you know, that we could like show people and that we could also like polish a little bit and be like, that was cool, you know? So we came up with the idea of having like little looping videos that would be like little 30-second songs. And we wanted to,
for
Instagram,
basically.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one that we did was the cream cheese one. And because that one's like 25 seconds, 26 seconds. And then we did Chamois, which comes halfway through one of the other songs. It's like halfway through premium content too. So anyways, we started making these little things, and they always ended up being ads. Like that was after the first one or two, after maybe those two, we went, we could just make a bunch of ads, like little fake ads. It would be funny, right? And we started making videos for them too. And so after a while, we had amassed a grand total of about 5 of them. And
release it, baby.
And so we were like, we got to release this. So like a year later, we were like, okay, we gotta do something with this stuff, you know? And we made the music for it in like one bunch of time, like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something like this. Then we made the videos for it, and that took a while. It was spread out over, I was going back and forth between Switzerland, and so it was like difficult to make these videos in any case. But we ended up making the 5 videos, and then we went, okay, let's like wrap this up and make an EP with it. So we went, well, it's all ads, so maybe we should have content too, you know? So we made these 2. This is one of the content songs. This is Premium Content 1. That's its title. And yeah, so it's kind of like the idea was to have a bunch of ads and then this weird content. Like the ads are all like bright and kind of like, look at this weird thing. You're like, buy Brogade, masculinity juice, you know, whatever. And so, and then the ads, at first were not the ads, the content was supposed to be like these transitional weird electro mashup songs. And that's kind of what it ended up being, but it didn't end up being as transitional. It was kind of different in character than what we thought. But in any case, these kind of content things end up being, I don't know, it's kind of interesting the way it turned out, because it seems like the content is like dark, nightmarish almost at times.
Yeah, no, it definitely, it's like a journey. Like when you're listening to it, it, you know, like, and you don't know, like, it's almost like you're looking around a corner, and then all of a sudden, like with the quick change of genres and stuff that you have in here, it's like, yeah, now like some crazy event happened, and it's, you know, I
definitely David Lynch.
Yeah, it's like super David Lynch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of, we ended up, the idea was to have something that like all of the ads were in different styles and kind of a little more popular music like, and then these ones were like more avant-garde, kind of weird nightmarish stuff, you know? So that's kind of what ended up happening. That's the theme, ads.
That's awesome. So Phil, did you record any live instruments in any of these tracks? Yeah, I mean, more of like the twisty destruction wave sound destroyer person.
I think Nick was more the destroyer sound person, actually, but we both did it. We were both destroying, mashing up sounds and stuff. But we both, when we recorded these songs, so this one is mainly samples, so it wasn't all recorded stuff. I don't even know who recorded the guitars on this, because we're both guitarists. So
this one was me, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, because I was in Switzerland for this one and I didn't have my guitar, so of course it would have been you. I remember I wrote parts of this in a piano thing or something. No, like I wrote little riffs and then you did it on guitar and whatever. Somehow it ended up working out. But yeah. Anyways, so when we were writing the ads songs, we would be together the entire time, and we would like just grab an instrument, be like, okay, what else does this song need? And then we would pick up an instrument, like in one of them in Crust, I've got a little travel guitar.
Yeah.
And what
is it made for children, or is it like a legitimate instrument?
It's almost a legitimate instrument, you know, like it's like
Yeah.
barely legitimate, you know,
I mean,
one of these things
not
that,
in
like,
the state that yours is, though.
no, not in the state. It's got 5 strings, you know, and like
Supposed to have 6.
yes, obviously.
Wait, there is room for a 6th string. It's not like
Yeah, it just
okay.
busted and
All right.
yeah.
All right. Just want to make
Anyways,
sure it's not like, oh, factory defective, 5 strings. Like
yeah, just
it's got unique tone. Like I didn't know if it was like one of those things. Like
no. What we did was we wanted to simulate a kind of like you know, like the strummed like a
Russian
12-string
sounding
guitar
instrument, kind of.
Yeah, something like I don't know, but what we did was we tuned 2 of the strings to a unison, and then we just like slid between the notes, but like a slightly out of tune unison, and then just like did a lot of tremolo with like a big floppy pick or something, and
not even plugged in.
Not even, yeah, we recorded it with a microphone, you know, with an electric guitar, so you just get a lot of pick sound, and so that's the kind of thing we would do. Like we both recorded vocals on a lot of these too. And half the time what we were doing was like trying to make the funniest voice possible, you know? And like, I don't know, I discovered a bunch of voices that I didn't know that I have, you know, like, I don't know.
I think we both developed a lot of abs during those recordings.
Yeah, exactly.
Just laughing much.
Yeah.
So, I want to, we got some people. John McLucas popped in here. He said, hey, yo. So what's up, John? Thank you for popping in. And, Greg Fender says that's like an all new kind of acoustic electric. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So expanding on that thought, because this is something that I've been playing with recently with music that I'm working with, or even like music I mix, is finding a good balance of like melody and the stuff people normally listen to, but also focusing on texture. And it sounds like this is something that you guys are thinking about in the songwriting process. I was just curious what your thoughts are on that, and if there's other things that, you know, go beyond melody, things that you're thinking about from different perspectives and stuff.
Yeah, definitely for me, I wouldn't say the texture is more important than melody, because melody is kind of always king, but texture is like, I would kind of substitute texture with the word like vibe or like ambience, you know, like sound world. Those things are super important and in general, but just even for me as a listener, because like I have kind of like what you would call synesthesia. So like when I listen to music, like it makes associations to color automatically, or like it brings to my landscapes and stuff like that. And so
that's cool. That can be extremely beneficial, I think.
Yeah, well, I think like if I had to choose like a secret weapon for me, that would kind of be it, because that comes in super handy when like mixing, because like I know like immediately when like there's some sort of color mismatch, or like there's something wrong, you know? So like creating like unique environments for the music is like my ultimate goal, because like that, like we're past the point of like making recordings sound better, you know, like in 2020, like there's no one's gonna really invent something that's gonna make a fucking electric guitar sound any better than it did like years ago, you know. So like now we're at the point of like kind of experiential listening, you know, so having like this connection to color where like I don't necessarily have the best technical like mixing knowledge, but this color is kind of like supplements that in like a pretty way for me, at least. So like the texture really comes into all that, you know, and just like I don't know how to explain it better than that. Like maybe Phil can stab at it.
That's cool. So you're kind of like the Bob Ross of avant-garde jazz, is what you're telling me. Huh? Is that what I'm getting here? Is that accurate?
I'm sure.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, for me, I do contemporary music, so like disclaimer, melody is not king in contemporary music. If anything, so when I say contemporary music, what I mean by that is, because a lot of people, they don't even know, like if you would hear a lot of the music that at least I listened to when starting to get into this, and a lot of contemporary music, you would be like, this is what the fuck is this? Isn't even music. Like, you know, a lot of people have that reaction when they first hear this, because it's really strange stuff. There is no melody. There is no, often what contemporary music
do
does.
people call that like atonal? Is that what that type of stuff is?
Yeah,
Because
so
I've heard
atonal,
that term. I don't listen to this kind of music, and I need to start getting into it, apparently.
well, so there are a bunch of things that we take for granted in music, in general, like in popular music, that have been kind of undermined in the past 120 years by the classical tradition and also the jazz tradition. So, for example, so atonal music, what that is so in general, we've got chords, chord progressions, and you have what we call a tonic, and so a tonal center. So notes have some sort of hierarchy, one in relation to another, and so you've got like when you sing bum 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 bum, those notes have a kind of relationship to each other that makes a kind of sense to us. You know, we just go, ah, yeah, bum bum bum, and then if I go, bah, you go, whoa, that was a weird note, you know. And then da dee da da da, or something da, then sounds nice, right? But in atonal music, you'll try to kind of break that framework, that hierarchy. So that's one way. In atonal music, you're kind of breaking down harmony. In a lot of other music, there's no more melody. So the first atonal music still had melodies and still had rhythms that were fairly conventional, forms that were fairly conventional, but just like wacky notes. They would be like, dee da ba dee da da dee, you know, and you're like, what the fuck was that? But it's still a melody. Whereas later on, you get music starting in the 50s with like maybe 60s with Ligeti, that where you get something that there's no melody. You've got the entire orchestra playing a bunch of things that are very similar and very close together, and it just makes a texture. It's just like a big sound mass, you know, and there's no melody whatsoever, but it makes really amazing music. And also there's no more rhythm, no more pulse, right? So
oh, weird. That would throw me off so much.
Yeah, so check out Ligeti, Gheorghe Ligeti. He's a composer that's really influenced me a lot. So if you listen to Space Odyssey, 2001, Space Odyssey, a lot of the music is Ligeti's music. When you hear like the weird choir stuff, that's Ligeti. And so a lot of people associate contemporary music, because there's like this weird, like, we don't know where we are, they associate it with film music, with horror music, you know? And a lot of it sounds like terrifying, you know, because you're just like, you don't have a stable base anymore. So all of this to say, in your question with melody and texture and stuff like this, texture is definitely something that I think about a lot in my music. I often think about like gesture, like what's the gesture that I want to come across? If Nick thinks in colors and in landscapes and images, I think in terms of bodily sensations and gestures, you know, like I'll play a chord and I'll be like, this chord is, and this chord is, you know, that's how I kind of feel it, you know? So for me, I'll think about the gesture of what I want to happen in a piece of music. Say, for example, I want something to start off as like this one, for example. I would think of it as starting off and then slowly growing, but you're not entirely sure to what. And then all of a sudden, boom, confusion. So you've got this gesture of, whoa, what's happening with the rhythm? And then all of a sudden coming together, and then rhythm. And now we've got an actual pulse that's like clear again. And then we go to the outro kind of thing. So there are a lot of different ways that you can listen to music other than just melody. And that's kind of the thing that I feel like, having done contemporary music and still doing contemporary music, of course, I'm doing a doctorate right now at McGill. That's really opened up my mind a lot, that you can make music with any kind of sound. You know, it's just organized sound or disorganized sound. Like, it's just sound. you know, and you could do a lot of weird shit with it.
Yeah.
And you could do a lot of cool stuff that really tickles your brain in nice ways. So try it.
I wish I would have talked to you guys sooner, because this is like incredible. This is so interesting. And I just, because I haven't gone down that route of all the, like avant-garde or like cutting edge music, maybe. I don't even know if it's the right term to use. So for example, you guys said that you played in a metal band together. Are there, because a lot of the people that listen to this show come from the same background. So are there bands or other composers or something you could recommend that are maybe more contemporary that go down this rabbit hole a little bit, that you could suggest for someone who wants to kind of explore this chaos?
In metal, isn't there like Behold the Octopus does some crazy stuff? I don't exactly know. I didn't really get to it through metal.
It doesn't necessarily have to just be metal.
Yeah.
But if there's some like contemporary composers or something that you would recommend for someone who wants to get an idea for what we're just like talking about, I think, because I'm gonna come back and check out everybody that you guys recommend, because this is such a cool thing.
I think for sure Ligeti, for me, that would be one that he just does such cool things with his music. And his style has changed a lot over the years. So he was always like renewing himself. And he's been a big influence on me, not only because I listen to his music a lot, but also because he's my teacher's teacher. So
cool.
So there's like, his thought has really been passed down and kind of ingrained into me in some ways. So for sure Ligeti. Another, for contemporary music, just like one more that I would say was a big influence on me that really does some cool stuff is Grisé.
You're gonna have to spell that, man. I don't speak French or whatever Italian. I don't even know, man.
Gérard Grisé. So that's Gerard, Gérard. Gerard Grisé is Grisey. Yes,
Schwingy knows it.
Schwingy is with a Y at the end.
Do it.
Almost close enough though. But yeah. the last E is a Y.
I want to point out a few.
There we got it.
I want to point out a few other comments. Greg Fender says this approach to making music is so refreshing. Yeah, it's definitely changing my perspective on what I need to be thinking about, in terms of, even like with mixing, like there's more to it than just, the very technical side. And that's, I think, the side that a lot of us tend to go down. And me being a scientist, I'm always thinking with like that part of my brain, and sometimes you just got to set it aside. And, is this make the song feel better or worse? Not like, oh man, 4K, we better take some of that away. Everybody's going to have fatigued ears, like, I think we just got to trust our instincts here. Mm-hmm. So this is very, very interesting. So Stuff is Stuff was asking Nick, who has changed his name to Bert, if the visuals that you when you see them, like, do you design the music videos to reflect that kind of visual experience? And I think that's a great question, because that's something I was thinking also.
Well, for the ads, not so much, partly because we weren't really very experienced at like making videos. So we're just kind of like, okay, we're just flying by the seat of our pants and we'll just take what we get, kind of thing, But for the visualizers, that's a different story, because Bobby, we kind of like live in the same like social media circles. So like someone like Jesse Cannon will say that the common best practices for like releasing music is you need like a music video, a lyric video, and a visualizer for every song that you put out. Like I'm sure you've heard that like a billion times at this point. Mm-hmm. So the plan for these was, because both of these songs were made in the COVID era, so obviously we're limited in what we can do in terms of collaborating in person. So the plan was to make this video a visualizer in the traditional sense, meaning that it's kind of just like looping images or like abstract illustrations that are also looping. And I started doing that. And the beginning of the video is still kind of like how it was when I started doing that. But I just got so fucking bored of it, man. Like it's like I don't consume visualizers, so why the hell would I spend my time making one? So then I was like, oh, okay. And it kind of falls in line with the same way we're making music, because I'll see if I can make some sort of story or make the editing kind of match the flow of the music or of how the music is functioning. So I just got like a bunch of like stock footage that had like keywords that were kind of like the music was making me think of like keywords and stuff. So I'd search up that stuff. And then there's also some footage that I repurposed from our other music videos, like the whole ducks part in the middle. That is from our ducks cream cheese video. So like the visuals kind of, it's not, they don't like match directly in terms of like this is what I was seeing when we were making the music, but the kind of the spirit of the music and like the vibe of the music and like the pacing of the music, like it's really important to me in these kind of videos that both of those things are in sync. So, and we also kind of, as I was doing this, I realized that because if you listen to like the song or the other premium content song in a vacuum with like no context whatsoever, like for sure, like 99.9% of people are just going to be like, what's going on? What is this? I don't understand this at all. You know? So like my mission was kind of like, okay, I'm going to use the visuals to help people to understand this music, because I realized that like, like you were saying before, you don't listen to contemporary music or like atonal music or stuff like that. But if that stuff appears in like a movie or a video game and it's well placed and well done, you're going to think that that music is friggin' awesome, because like it's giving you like this feeling, you know, it's like it's affecting you so deeply when it's done properly. So like I realized that a visualizer like this like really helps to like get the music like seep in a kind of more subconscious way. Like you don't like necessarily understand the story or something or like what the music is doing on a technical level, but you're kind of, it makes it easier to digest in a way that like it's kind of intangible, I find, but it helps to hold your hand through the process, I find.
That you could not have said it any better than that, because I feel very strongly that that's exactly what this visualizer did for me. Like, to understand the music. I know when I was mastering it, I think I actually might have mastered it live. So if you go back on my Facebook or YouTube, you might be able to find it. But I think I started backwards because I didn't even know how to approach it, because it was so different for me. So I started with the end goal and then worked backwards. Like I've never done that before, but it just worked for this song. And just like the choice of videos, like the chaos from like the footsteps and like like how it feels congested. Like there's so many feet in a small thing, right? If we look at the video again, you know, look at all these feet. They're all over the place, and it's like kind of terrifying, right? And then you have this intro with this like fade slowly coming in, like gives me like anxiety, you know? It's like it's so it's like it definitely made me connect with the music more, being able to like associate, you know, these different things that I haven't really been able to associate before. So bravo on that. Like that is so cool. Yeah, it's super interesting to hear that. So yeah, you're definitely, so it's not necessarily that so when you're making these videos, it's more about like what the feelings are when you're hearing them, or is it more about like the emotion and then trying to piece it together? Like, I guess that's the last piece that I was curious about for making these videos.
I'm not sure I really understand the difference between emotion and feeling.
No, you're probably right. It's probably just so dude. Okay. Yeah. All right. You already answered that question. We're going to be moving on. All right. It's my show. I can do what I want. All right. So I did well, actually, Schwingy's got a question for you guys. Or maybe a comment. Let me see. It's easier to connect with the music through video. That film and video game music observation makes a lot of sense. That I didn't think about. So yeah, no, I'm completely agree with that. So going back to the songwriting process, there's something that I heard about recently. It's by a composer that I really like. He's an electronic music artist. His name's BT. So that's his artist name is BT. Have you guys heard of this guy? Amazing. You need to. He's really inspiring. Great speaker. I've talked to him at NAMM and a few other places, and he's a computer programmer, so he understands like the physical and the scientific side of it very well. So he's like made his own plugins to do things easier for him. He has like some Guinness Book of World Records for like most vocal edits in a song because his style was like a glitchy kind of vocal texture thing. And so he's very interesting dude. And he gave a presentation at NAMM when we could actually all meet in person. And he talked about this new kind of concept because he puts out like pop, like very well written, catchy melodic stuff. And then he puts out like an experimental electronics album, and then catchy pop stuff, electronic experimental album. And something that he was exploring was this, I guess he called it like data hacking or something. But what he's basically doing is this is super interesting because I'm a nerd. All right. But I'm curious to your thoughts on this. And maybe this will inspire you guys. But what he does is he'll take things that are not audio files, right? He'll take a picture or a PDF of a book he likes, or I don't know, this music video, since you guys like to repurpose stuff, and he'll rewrite the header data so the computer thinks it's a different file. So he'll go in, change the code, and I'm sure there's ways of doing this. Basically, like you can tell it, hey, this isn't actually a PDF, it's actually a WAV file. And then you can play the PDF, if you will. And he said sometimes, most of the time it's white noise, but occasionally you find this beautiful mistake or this beautiful tone. And it's usually nothing you've ever heard before. Like it doesn't make any sense, and it's chaotic, but it can be like super beautiful. And I was wondering if you guys have ever heard of any of this stuff. And yeah, and if you haven't, you guys should definitely start figuring out how to do this and let that inspire some more crazy music like this, because this is so cool.
Contemporary music guys do stuff like this pretty often, actually. It's like
cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a thing. It's really a, but yeah, we've got like one teacher at McGill who's, I think he did a piece that was based on scans of, he used Machaut, a composer and poet from like late Middle Ages, like right at the beginning of the Renaissance. And he used the calligraphy of some books or something. I forget exactly what it was, but he would do similar things like that. And that's something that actually happens a lot especially in like sound arts kind of stuff. Like people will do like installation music, where you walk into a room and I don't know, you like based on the number of people that are in the room and stuff like this, it'll like make some weird sounds, And so there's a lot of like weird shit like that going on in contemporary music, and especially in more people who will call themselves sound artists rather than composers, like people who will do installations and do stuff like this. That's like a really like a cool thing that they'll do. But I haven't done that I don't know. I think I've done that a bit with like certain things, like a way to get myself out of a box or something. I would like draw some squiggles and be like, what would this be if I mapped this onto harmony, what would this be? You know, and then if I map this onto whatever, what would it be? If this was speed, what would it be? You know, like whatever. Because part of the interesting thing about this is how do you map the data onto, what musical parameters do you use to map the data onto, right? And then it's like a huge thing that you could just go crazy
It's
with.
a huge rabbit hole. Like, how are you ever gonna finish a song if you're
yeah
it seems like you just keep exploring these things and never get anything written.
Yeah, you totally could. You totally could. But like, say for example, I heard one where it was like a tree, the circles of a tree or something like this that were mapped onto notes, and it was all notes of just a C minor triad, and people were like, it's so beautiful. And it's like, you could have taken any image and mapped it onto C minor and it would sound like random blops of C minor. Like, it doesn't, this has nothing to do with the tree, guys. Nothing. Like, it's just because of the mapping. So the mapping has a lot to do with it. Like, that's super important. But yeah, sometimes you're just like, can find these weird random things that'll get you out of a hole like that and like start making you think of weird shit all of a sudden. But we're, I think, less like, I do that less as a composer, and Nick, like, you've never done this in the coding world, but maybe you've done this in other ways of like finding some sort of thing that can like bounce you out of, I don't know, make you think of some other random thing to do because of, I don't know, multimedia kind of thinking or something.
Yeah, well, you're right in saying that like that's not really something that I've done, because like anything like too technically minded or data minded or anything, I'm just like, fuck that shit, leave it to Phil. He likes that stuff.
And it's funny because you're like the video mixing like technology guy, like,
but I don't feel like I do those things in a technical way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really like, yeah.
But my version of that is kind of like what I was alluding to a little bit earlier. But like, there are plenty of songs in my catalog that just started with me. I open an Ableton session and then I'll put like every song that I've ever written in them, and then I'll like reverse them and then listen to the whole thing. And then if there's a part that I like, then I'll just like, okay, I'll cut that up and I'll put that aside for later, you know? So like, it's kind of the same thing as like changing the data, whatever, of the PDF to play music, you know? You're just kind of like turning it around, you know? And just like, there's also a lot of times where I'll find like those wacky kind of plugins that do weird stuff that are not really like, you never use them because they're just so stupid. But if you presets and you find something cool, then you're like, sweet, I'm going to use this now, you know? Like something like Trash, there's so many settings on that stuff that is just like, when are you ever going to use this stuff for like a problem solving purpose? But then like, if you put it on like a full band recording that you put it in reverse, all of a sudden it sounds like the coolest thing you've ever heard, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. We gotta give a shout out to Dana. She said she loves the beer cam. I also love the beer cam, and I think it's causing bad life choices for me, but that's okay. And then we also have Ryan had a question for you. Since we're talking about Ableton, I figured this is a good time to bring this up. He says, Nick mentioned about using Ableton to make some of those sound samples. Can't see the full question here, but I can, because I'm like the overlord here. But he says, are there any good resources that you use to learn Ableton, or is this more of a DIY research approach?
To be honest, a lot of the Ableton kind of resources on YouTube are just, they're either junk or they're too focused on EDM techno kind of stuff, so it's not really going to help you out in this situation. But pretty much all you need to know is going to be in, like, when you click on a clip in, like, I think it's called the arrangement one, the one where you actually see the waveforms. In the bottom left, you'll see, like, that's pretty much where you're going to do all of your exploring, because that's where you can transpose it, you can reverse it there, you can change the speed, you can change the warp algorithms in there, and you just like take one clip and just go through every single one and see how it affects it. And that's kind of where, like, all of, like, especially in this song, the tweener or the premium content, like that's where, like, most of the audio come from, messing around with just that tiny box in Ableton.
So do you think Ableton is probably one of the most, like, the DAW that has the most creativity behind it in terms of like songwriting and exploration. Because I feel like Cubase doesn't really like it's not, it's more for like straightforward tracking, like in a traditional sense. It's not really for like exploring cool sounds. I know I used Ableton a little bit when I used to DJ, and I'd make mashups with it. And it was a lot easier because you can do so many cool things right on the fly, right? You can set in different modes, and it's very different. Do you feel that that's probably the most creative DAW out there?
Yes and no, because like the functionality in terms of how far you can stretch something with warping or like any kind of weird stuff like that, you can push it way further in Ableton than in any other DAW by far. But the drawback is that it's just so clunky to work with. Like, I hate mixing in that, just because you can't customize like pretty much anything, and so like it just slows you down so much. But I find that when I updated to Cubase 10.5, it's slowly starting to catch up to Ableton in terms of like the warping and stuff. So I think I could probably get away with like 80% of what I do in Ableton in Cubase now. And then if there's something that I know that gonna need to push it more, I'll just like take that little clip into Ableton and do it, and then like bounce it back, just because Cubase allows me to be like way faster, and I'm not like trying to like flunk my way. It's like clunky program that's made for like EDM.
Also, I don't know if like in your circles people use Logic very much, but
Yeah.
in
Very popular with the metal community. Yeah, it seems like everybody loves it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, anyways, but Logic, it also has like some pretty powerful tools with the flex time thing. You could do a lot of stuff with that. Like I've done at McGill, we use Logic. Like that's the program that people will use, and we've done like everyone at McGill has to take these. Actually, this is probably important for the discussion of weird electronic stuff, because we, in contemporary music, electronic music is really important because all sorts of weird shit. I mean, electronic music actually starts from the tradition of weird contemporary music stuff, actually. Like way back in like the 50s and 60s and stuff, because the only people who could afford doing electronic music at the time were people who were funded by the state. And who was funded by the state? The classical, not classical, but contemporary music, avant-garde music was being funded by the state in Germany and in France. And so the Germany and France thing founded two kind of schools. You had Stockhausen in Germany, who was doing weird bleep blop music with synthesizers, really the first synthesizers. And you had in France doing electroacoustic music, what they call. And this is, well, they called it musique concrète. And this is actually very close to our approach. It was Pierre Schaeffer, who was working at Radio France at the time. And what he did was he just took recordings and looped them. He found a way to, like, I don't know, somehow make a loop in the vinyl, and just to listen to one sound over and over and over again. And that was revolutionary at the time, because you couldn't do that. Like, how would you do that? How would you listen to one song one sound, a tiny, tiny sound, in a loop? Impossible. So when he did that, he realized all sorts of things. He realized that generally when you're listening to a sound, you're listening to it based on a specific context. So if you hear in the kitchen some spoons falling and stuff, you don't go metallic sound with sharp attack and very quick decay. Like, you don't do that. You go, someone dropped some fucking spoons.
Right, yeah.
Like, I hope nothing broke. Like that's what you think.
There's someone that broke into my house.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what the fuck? So generally, what you're thinking of is what is the source of the sound, right? That's one way of listening to sounds. The other thing that you'll think is if you're thinking of in terms of more like classical, I don't know, popular music, whatever kind of normal, not weird music, you'll think, what is this note? What is the rhythm of the note? You're thinking about the rhythm and the pitch and all of these other functions of the note, and not just the sound itself, right? And so what we're doing a lot in our music is actually coming from this French tradition of listening to a sound in a loop, discovering what the inner components of that sound are, and then kind of trying to manipulate that and make you hear that instead of the door, right? If you hear a door creaking over and over again, at first you just hear, your brain just goes, it's a door creaking. Like, it's not interesting. It's just a door creaking. And then after a while you start hearing, you know, and then you go, and then you start hearing, okay, there's this pitch thing. At the beginning it goes, and then it becomes pitched. At first it's not pitched, then it's pitched. That's interesting, you know. And then you hear all sorts of things in the sound that you didn't hear before. And that's kind of a lot of what we're doing here, is we're taking sounds, listening to them in a loop, or listening to them in some sort of context where they're divorced from their original musical context, and then seeing what kind of weird shit can we do with this, you know. So it's a kind of interesting thing, but yeah.
And on top of that is amazing ear training for anyone who wants to kind of program VSTs or like synths and stuff, because it allows you to kind of, you're just training yourself to like divide the sound. Okay, like this is what like the attack sounds like, or like these layers like vertically at that point in time, and then it goes to this kind of sound in the sustain portion, you know. So if you're thinking like that, you can if you want to program synths thinking that way, and it just makes it easier to understand how like the sound evolves. But also, if you want to layer or sequence a bunch of sounds together to make it feel like it's one thing, but it's actually like a bunch of different samples that you timed perfectly or just manipulated so that it sounds like one continuous sound, you know.
I'm just completely blown away right now. Like, I'm gonna literally rewatch this probably like 4 or 5 times this weekend, because we covered so much stuff, and I feel like I could sit here and talk with you guys all night about this. And yeah, basically,
I've still got more beer left. No, I
That's
don't.
right.
Actually. I'm running out of beer.
I do want to say, so everybody that's watching, like, where can they go to find your music? Like, what platforms? Like, let's drop some links for everybody to see and check out your music.
Well, it's pretty much everywhere with the same handle, Greetings from the Hole. We're on Spotify, pretty much all the major streaming things. YouTube, that's probably like a great place because you get all of those visual components to all of this music too. And Facebook and Instagram, we're on there too at Greetings from the Hole.
Cool. Yeah, I just posted it in the chat, just so everybody can see it. If you're from YouTube and you want to check it out, I posted it on the screen right now. So it's at Greetings from the Hole. Awesome. Nick, Phil, this was incredible. Like, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your evening to come kick it with me and share your thoughts, because I don't know, I find your music captivating and I just needed to know more about it. So
thanks a lot for having us, man.
This was fun.